This is Common Sense Radio. Straightforward and no excuses.
All right. Come on now.
This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Call me crazy.
Oh, yeah.
What I said was perfectly right and spot on accurate.
Boy's got a mouth like a cannon, always shooting it all.
Stop. Yeah, stop. I mean, you're way off script.
Got it in me. Gonna quit until it all comes out.
Hey, boy!
Been a long education.
Yeah, you know, it's not cynical. It's common sense.
Pay attention to me when I'm talking to you.
I'm gonna rock the nation. Rock the nation.
Genuine, accountable, and raw. Here is Steve Gruber.
All right, this portion brought to you by Mesa Good Business, Good Health, and Great Schools. Mesa bringing you this portion of the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so we're going to take a little diversion here for a second and direct your attention to the end of the month, which is better known as Halloween. Halloween happens at the end of the month, October the 31st, of course. I think it's the second biggest holiday now when it comes to spending. So here's what I've got going on. I'm going to come up with some sort of a prize. I don't have the prize yet, but trust me, it's going to be something really cool. All right? But on the Steve Gruber Show Facebook page, I have a challenge for you. It's Gruber's Halloween Challenge. What is your best costume? Or what is the very best you've got? You, your kids, your grandkids, whatever you've got. And give me an idea what's hot out there this year. You know, zombies or whatever it may be, right? The zombie apocalypse and every other thing that's going on out there. But go to the Steve Gruber Show Facebook page. I've got a video there. It's well, if you like clowns, you're going to like it. That's what Ivy said. If you like clowns, you're going to love this Facebook posting. And Ivy and her sister are big fans of creepy clowns.
No way.
What is it about clowns? Anyway, what is it with clowns?
I think it was Stephen King's movie It that just destroyed me for clowns, yeah.
Yeah. Come on over to the circus. Anyhow, check that out, the Steve Gruber Show Facebook page. I'll give you a little diversion from the everyday, because if you go on there, you can see what other folks are doing, maybe get some ideas for yourself. Let's be honest. It's an opportunity to be somebody else for a day, you know, to get involved in, and just, you know, go and do something completely different. All right. Back to the more serious matters of the day now. The White House is confirming that President Obama is now working to prepare a series of executive actions on gun control. He will do it to match his recent statements and passion on the issue after the last mass shooting in Oregon. It's a high priority and will continue to be until we start to see more progress on this issue in this town, said White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest. Now, what they have all failed to tell you is what law there could possibly be that would have stopped the mass shooting in Oregon or Charleston, South Carolina, or anywhere for that matter. Short of outright confiscation, what can be done to end those particular public mass shootings? And the answer is, I haven't seen one yet. Now, having said that, I do agree. You know, I get pushback on this, but I do think it is appropriate. I think owning a firearm is an awesome responsibility. And I don't think that all of our citizens are up to that responsibility. You know, I think that if you have a violent felony or you have some debilitating mental issues, that you are not up to that awesome responsibility. And because of that, the argument that I've been getting into as of late is about background checks. Well, I mean, we could run it on the honor system. We could say, hey, violent felons, just run it on the honor system. You know, don't worry about it. If you've got a violent felony, just tell them you're buying a gun. We're cool. I mean, come on. That doesn't make much sense now, does it? And my point being, with Dr. John Lott or anybody else, that if we're going to run background checks on folks, we might as well just do it on when you transfer guns. It's pretty simple. Now, I get a lot of pushback from that. Well, you're not very conservative. And come on, please, really? We're not going to run the honor system for convicted felons, so why should we run the honor system at all? We're talking about an incredible responsibility, and with that incredible responsibility comes accountability. But, Steve, it's just their way to get to the guns and take them away. Oh, I don't disagree with you. Make no mistake, I think Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders and a whole host of folks from the United Nations and pretty much everybody from the United Nations would like to take your guns away. And I certainly don't agree with that. And I don't think that we need mass gun registration. Here's the point. If you pass your background check, that's all that matters. Nobody needs to know what guns you have. At that point, if you pass the background check, you pass. Where am I going wrong? You tell me. 888-900-9966, 888-900-9966. And this notion, there is a gun show loophole to some extent. However, the vast majority of folks selling guns at gun shows are licensed gun dealers, which means they are required to have the paperwork filled out at the gun show just like they were at their own shop. So this notion of a gun show loophole is a bit of a red herring. Now, when it comes to the private sale of firearms on the street, that's a bit different. When it comes to inheriting weapons, from family members, that's different. But this notion of a gun show loophole is way overblown and way overstated. And this other idea that the National Rifle Association should be treated as a terrorist group is also hogwash. Completed on their hogwash. I mean, there's just no question about it. Really, that is akin to saying that AAA is responsible for drunk drivers because they support automobiles and your right to own an automobile. And the National Rifle Association supports guns and your right to own a gun does not make them responsible for the bloodletting of a maniac in a massacre. Doesn't stand the stink test. Here's what else Josh Earnest said, and this one should concern you. I can tell you that they are not stumped. They are continuing to review the law that's on the books and continuing to consult with legal authorities, but also others who may have ideas about what steps that can be taken to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. He admitted, however, that he had no details for what the White House was working on, but asserted that the process was a scrub that was ongoing. Earnest also welcomed Hillary Clinton's own gun control proposals, although she didn't have any. She didn't have any proposals. She just platitudes about, common sense laws. Common sense laws means what exactly? Because here's the problem with it. Once you start implementing, let's say, a ban on assault weapons, which is what they want to go for early on, and then you'll have your next mass shooting, so that didn't work, so we'll need some more common sense gun laws, and then you'll have another episode, and that didn't work. The only thing that they're really gearing toward, and you folks are right about this, is mass confiscation of your firearms. When the president cites Australia and the UK as examples of how to stop mass shootings, the only thing those countries did that we haven't is mass confiscation of privately held firearms. That part's true. And I still support background checks. Does that make me crazy? I don't think so. I think that calls for common sense. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Tuesday.
Genuine Michigan common sense on display every day.
They say I better take anything they got. Do you wanna make tea at the BBC? Do you really wanna be a cop? Career opportunity, the one that never knocked. Every job they offer used to keep you up the dock.
All right, welcome back to it. It's the Steve Gruber Show on a Tuesday. The phone number is 888-900-9966. 888-900-9966. Stop by, post your comments at stevegruber.com as well. Tax and spend leadership stole your vote. That's wrong, and I'm going to take it back. Michigan strong. Cindy Gamrat. Anyhow, that's the new ad coming from the woman tossed out of the House for well, just for bad behavior in general. And now she has this new campaign deal, trying to get her old seat back after she was tossed. Her unfavorable ratings are high. Todd Courser's unfavorable ratings high. And here to sort it all out, Kyle Melinn from MERS News, the editor thereof. Welcome back to the program, Kyle.
Hey, it's my pleasure, Steve.
So this is quite a little flyer she's got here. She looks all stern and tough, and, it was the tax and spend leadership that stole your vote. Does anybody here take responsibility for themselves?
I think I think the tack that she's taking, though, is probably the best one that she can take. Here we had somebody who was duly elected by the constituents in her district, and then the folks there in Lansing voted her out of office within a month of basically the scandalous story first came out about her. She wasn't able to see the people that had worked under her testify, and so I think she feels like she was kind of railroaded there. She was pretty much pressured to sign an admission statement that was later used to hang her. So not to defend anything that she's done or anything, Stephen, don't get me wrong, but I think from her point of view, she feels like she was railroaded, and that the people in the 80th district never got a chance to say whether she should stay or go. And I think she just feels like she's offering the constituents that opportunity right now.
So looking at some polling numbers, Todd Courser, who resigned before he got tossed, spurred the open seat of the 82nd House District. He has apparently about a 9% support. He could still pull this thing off, it seems. 25% undecided. He has 95% name recognition, according to some polling that's been done. Of course, nobody likes him. There is that. He's very, very high on the negatives. Unfavorable rating of 77%. Which is, pretty rough. Only 19% view him favorably. But if 19% view him favorably, and he can collect about half of those votes, he could pull this thing off.
Well, if he gets half percent, I don't know about that. I think he still has to get about 18 to 20% in order to win that thing. I know that there's 11 or 10 candidates out there, but you figure that some of those are only going to get a couple percent. I think Jan Peabody or Gary Howell is going to get in the double digits, and somebody's going to approach 20%. So I think he's got to shoot for at least 20% over there to expect to win. I think Cindy Gamrat's got to be trying to shoot for about 28 to 30% if she thinks that she's going to win. And there is a lot of concern about that, though, Steve, and you're starting to see it because we have the Great Lakes Education Project, which is a political action committee starting to put out flyers in this district, hit pieces on both Todd Courser and Cindy Gamrat. We got a copy of these flyers that are hitting the mailboxes today in those districts, and the one they use on Todd Courser is a hand opening a cookie jar that says Todd Courser got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, and it's a pretty crummy deal for Lapeer County taxpayers. And then over in Cindy Gamrat's district, we have a flyer that is titled Deceptive, Deceitful, Dishonest. These are the words that describe Cindy Gamrat. So obviously the folks here in Lansing are concerned about it, enough to spend money in the district. They don't want to see them back.
Yeah, and so, all right, so handicap it for me. Do you think there's got to be some chance? Their name's on the ballot, so they have some chance. And you know what? I think you're right about, tax and spend leadership stole your vote. That's probably her best approach. And Courser's best approach is, I don't know what his best approach is. At any rate,
I don't know what his best approach is either, because he's the one who authored that email that criticized himself and was kind of behind the self-destruction plot there. So I don't know if his story is as good. And plus, he resigned, and so you resigned, and now you want to come back. So that doesn't. I don't know how that sounds to the voters over there, but I don't know if his story is as compelling. But what he is doing is he's telling the voters down there that this election is a referendum on him. And whether he was tossed out of office or resigned, what he wanted to do was give the voters the opportunity, kind of the same stretcher, give the voters the opportunity to have a referendum on him. And so what he's trying to do is he's trying to make this a race between himself and the field. And so basically saying the rest of the Republican candidates are the field. Now, Todd Courser, though, has another problem, though. Unlike Cindy Gamrat, whose Republican base in her district is enormous, his base in Lapeer is good, but not that great. Where if he were to win the primary, Steve, there's a very good possibility the Democrat could win in the general election. So that's kind of a double thing he has to worry about. There are Republicans over there who are just, by the polling that we saw last week, are willing to flip and vote for the Democrat if he were to be the nominee. So he's got other issues as well. You asked for some handicapping here, and this is kind of what I see. I think Cindy Gamrat has about a 20% chance of being successful. I would give Todd Courser more like a 5% chance because of that Democratic situation over there where somebody could win on the Democratic side.
Yeah, well, there you go. By the way, I was going to mention here Governor John Engler. I don't think he's been involved with politics a long time. He endorsed Jim Story for the 80th House District. It's been a long time since John Engler's been involved with anything in politics. Yeah, well, that's true. Anyhow, Kyle, greatly appreciate your time. Good handicapping, by the way. We'll keep an eye on that race. Nicely done.
Hey, thank you.
There you have it. Kyle Melinn. He is the editor of MERS News, a great source for the news you hear here on the Steve Gruber Show, plus the MTN Network news, all in part fueled by Kyle Melinn and his organization.
The Steve Gruber Show, American values with Midwestern common sense.
Let me tell you how it will be. There's one for you, 19 for me.
All right, welcome to it, my friends. It's still Tuesday, and our good friend Megan Barth here, the founder and proprietor of ReaganBaby.com. Welcome to the Steve Gruber Show, Megan. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, my friend. What about this Donald Trump? Still leading in the polls. Looks like some of his support is waning a wee bit, but not much. He continues to hold his own, and he comes out with a tax plan that would benefit me. Would it benefit you?
It'll benefit a lot of people. It'll benefit most people, especially small businesses and corporations, which would add a big jolt to our lagging job market, if we even have a job market, quite frankly. We've got 93 million people out of the workforce, 59 million of those are women. Specifically talking about corporations and small businesses, he slashes the corporate tax rate from the highest in the world, 35%, to 15%. This will affect small businesses and corporations. He also will allow $2.3 trillion of monies that are being held overseas by corporations to come back into the U.S., and as long as they invest it in the U.S. as capital, he will charge them one-time 10% repatriation fee. So the amount of business that could start, a small business specifically, with a 15% compared to 35% tax bracket should be a huge jolt for small business, considering they're the drivers of the economy in our country.
Right. So, I'm just sitting here thinking, Trump is oftentimes called out for a lot of comments, a lot of rhetoric, and so on and so forth. But he continues to put out policies and plans that seem to resonate with the American people, whether we're talking about what's going on the southern border or what's going on with taxation. So even people that I know that were critics of his say, you know what? I don't mind his tax plan. I've heard that from people that were, tough on him to begin with. And they're like, well, maybe he's onto something. Anyhow, what do you say?
Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, and Grover Norquist, pretty champions of conservatism, have approved much of this plan and even referred to the plan as Reagan-esque. Donald Trump takes the convoluted tax plan, which Albert Einstein even said was the hardest thing to understand in the world is the income tax, and he reduces it from 7 brackets down to 4, whereby one bracket you have 0% tax on single filers up to $25,000 and married filers up to $50,000. And then it goes from there, 10%, 20%, and 25%. He also eliminates the marriage tax, which I've never really understood, the death tax, and the AMT would be eliminated. And the AMT is the largest hit to the middle class now than it was when it was originally established, I think, in 1969. Loopholes would be eliminated, charitable deductions and mortgage expenses would be saved, and the deductions will be capped or removed that are redundant. So the plan is bold, and the plan gives us reform, which is what we need. You know, if you look over at what I call the Star Wars Barthine, which is the DNC lot that is running for president, they're promising, both Hillary and Sanders, they're promising a ton of freebies. But these freebies will cost $18 trillion. And in order to support these freebies, these two will raise taxes by $6.5 trillion. And then let's not even talk about climate change and how that redistribution of wealth scheme is going to work for the socialists. But
well, you know, the United Nations is pushing the sustainability accord, this nonsense that basically it has a nice ring to it to school kids who don't know any better. But the truth of the matter is it's another redistribution scheme to, you know, deplete the United States wealth further, to destroy capitalism, and to promote this socialist worldview, which has been a failure, an abject failure over and over again, and yet here they come again. Here comes Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, who are not that far apart, by the way. Bernie Sanders might be an admitted socialist. The other ones just need to come out of the closet.
Well, and that's what I've said since the beginning, since I've been writing on Reagan Baby. The Democrats, the DNC, should just kick the donkey to the side and adopt the hammer and sickle. They are socialists through and through, with especially how far the Democrats have been pushed left with Barack Obama and his policies. Hillary is no different. Bernie is no different. And if Biden jumps in the race, the really only distinguishing quality I can see from Biden and the rest is his position on abortion. That's really where he only differs. He is going to have a hard time, and as well as Hillary, running against Barack Obama, because they are going to mirror his policies and actions, and they are going to raise taxes $6.5 trillion. The freebies have to be paid from somewhere. You know, as Reagan said, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem.
That's exactly right. That hasn't changed in my lifetime.
Pardon?
I said that's exactly right, and has not changed in my lifetime.
That's right. And I think that's why you see the outsiders, specifically on the right, rising, because people are hungry for that true change. They know things are wrong. They know they're taking home less money. They know they're not getting a return on the investment in their taxes, whether they put them into the schools or what have you, or the roads. So that is why people are fed up with the typical politicians. And you see Trump's rise. You see Carson's rise. I'm very surprised by Carson's rise, quite frankly, and his surge. You see Carly's rise. I wouldn't consider herself a total outsider because she has worked in the political arena. She does have security clearance that none of the other outsiders have. But yet you see these three surging ahead in the polls.
Well, I also see Marco Rubio coming in.
From politicians that are never fulfilled.
Fair point. Megan Barth, I also see Marco Rubio on the rise as well, but we'll keep an eye on it. Always a good conversation, and I think Trump's plan, I like it. Will he win? I don't know. Megan Barth, ReaganBaby.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There you